It was founded in 1994 in Exeter, and there were 2 additional campuses added to the original plant. The last campus was in 2010, was the Boulders. Birch joined the Riverwoods Group family in 2016, and our newest community, Riverwoods Durham, opened in 2019. And SBE is a very corporate term for someplace else. So the need is always growing in this demographic. More than 10,000 people turn 70 every day. So we always have our eye on the future. So the next slide is an introduction to what a continuing care retirement community is. It is an insurance product, and that means that it is a contract, and all of the contracts are regulated by the state of operation. So for us, it's New Hampshire, and our performance financially is reported to the state. This also means that you are prepaying for potential healthcare needs. And because of that, a portion of your entrance fee and your monthly service fee are tax deductible. And it's also a lifestyle choice, or a choice of positivity. People enter while they're living independently, and you really change your lifestyle and free yourself from home maintenance and chores. We provide transportation and a loaded calendar of activities, programs, intellectual opportunities, trips, fitness classes, you name it. So this is also increased social options. You're never isolated. Even in times of social distancing, your neighbors are right across the 6-foot hall. You can always have a conversation or join a social gathering, safely distanced. And this also is, if you're someone like me who's a control enthusiast, answers the question of where you're going to get your healthcare covered, when that will happen, and who is going to be providing that care. So a little bit more about CCRCs. As I mentioned, you enter when you're living independently, and the minimum age is 62. So there are 3 levels of care, and that's the continuum of care. So it's independent living, assisted living if and when you need it, nursing care, and Birch also offers memory support. So you can transition between the levels as needed. As your health needs dictate, there's 30 days of respite care included each year for independent residents. So if you, say have a shoulder replacement and you need to move to our health center, assisted living, to get a little bit more support for a few weeks, to get back on your feet, then you can move back to your independent apartment at that time. The door doesn't shut behind you, and there's no question about where that care will be provided. There's services and amenities provided at every level, and I kind of talked about that a little bit in the last slide. But also, what's interesting about a nonprofit CCRC like the Riverwoods Group is we offer a benevolence clause. And that states that if you are living so vivaciously that you, outlive your assets, you can apply for benevolence, and the community will cover the cost of your service fees monthly. So you'll never be kicked out of the community. I think the next slide is just a little bit more about Birch. We've been in Manchester for over 100 years. It was started as a ladies' aid society, and it has a long-standing history known as Pearl Manor and then Hillcrest Terrace, and it became a CCRC in 2009. We're the only Type B contract currently in the state of New Hampshire. We joined the Riverwoods Group in 2016, and since have completed a whole beautiful renovation and addition, including a new fitness center, a multi-purpose room. All of our apartments have been completely renovated, and some there are still left to finish. So there is an opportunity to pick your finishes in those homes, which some people find very appealing. It's like building a new home. Because we've taken those apartments offline to completely renovate them, that means there's no long wait list like you would find at other continuing care retirement communities. Some are up to 7 years, depending on the type of floor plan that you're interested in. And although we're located in Manchester, it's not what you'd expect. When you arrive at Birch Hill, or you're located in a beautiful country setting next to a 600-acre nature conservancy, yes, in Manchester, but it's just 10 minutes from all the dining and the conveniences, 15 minutes from the Manchester-Boston airport. So it really is the best of both worlds. And I'll just talk a little bit about our innovative contract. So this is the first of its kind in New England. We only know of one other community in Texas that has this type of contract, and we call it the flex contract. So it's a 70% refundable entrance fee. And what makes this more unique is that you can save the 70% refund as asset preservation, or it gives you the option to use that refundable portion to offset the cost of assisted living, memory care, and nursing care. So it makes your cost more predictable, and the out-of-pocket for you doesn't change. So it kind of is like a mock type A contract. So it's a better value for couples also, and you can use your long-term care benefit with a type B contract. So if you have a long-term care policy, which many people do, you can use that to offset the cost as well. So it really is a great value. And I think that's pretty much it. So I'll go ahead and introduce Kate and Ellen, who are from Wayforth. And they were formerly Home Transition Resource, so you might know that name. But they have helped hundreds, probably thousands of families by now, downsize and move over the past 12 to 13 years or so. And they affiliated with Wayforth in 2019, which really increased the networking strength and to help support long distance moves. So the ladies at Wayforth were the first move management company in New England to be accredited by the Association of Senior Move Managers. So with that, I'll let you all take it away.
Great, thank you so much, Kim. I'm Ellen Sullivan, and Kate Grondin is joining me.
Hi, everyone.
So we wanted to spend some time today helping you with understanding what move management is, getting you some tips for downsizing, and so important to manage expectations as well. We're in the business of really helping you to do just that, so that you can kind of feel calm and relaxed and have a really good idea of what the process is going to look like. That's just very important. We'll also do a Q&A, summary and questions and answers. But I think Kim had indicated that if you do have questions along the way, feel free to pipe in on the chat, and we'll be happy to address them at that time. So many people think in terms of a move as just the mover, the one that's going to pick up the boxes and put it down, maybe do some packing, but there's so much more to moving. We as move managers are professionals who are really specializing in working with you, handling and managing, helping you with the physical and emotional aspects of your move. We are keenly aware that, as they say, your stuff is your life, and we respect and honor not only your items, but also your independence. You're in charge. We're here to guide the process, but with our expertise, we've been doing this for 12 years now, and so we do have that experience behind us to do just that in guiding the process. So our services range from everything from downsizing. You can see these here. So from downsizing to floor planning, inventories. Many people will say to us, gosh, I'm glad that we've identified, through the floor plan and through some downsizing what I am going to take. But the big piece too, now that you are downsizing or right sizing, is what am I going to do with the items that I can't bring with me? So we'll address that in terms of, selling, donating, and recycling, disposal, and the rest. But we can help you with all of that. Most of you are putting your home on the market. We work with realtors regularly. to help get that, your home prepared for the market, so that whether they're staging it or we're staging it, you're in good shape for your move. The last thing we want to do is have you clearing surfaces for your realtor, for your home, and not making decisions on those. Because if you start clearing things away, all of a sudden now you have to go back through those boxes or bags to make decisions. So we're here to just bring everybody together, the realtor, us, and you, or any family members, just to make sure that everybody is working together as a team. Well, again, you in charge, us helping to guide the process. There's a lot of coordinating of logistics, a lot of behind the scenes that we can help you with, and that's available as well. We also do packing and unpacking and resettling. So we pack to unpack. If we're packing your curio, your break front, a buffet, anything, a bookcase, we take pictures before we pack. And we utilize those pictures in order to help you, in order to help with the unpack and the resettling. And so that you are coming from your home with these items, with these possessions that you're moving to your new home is now looking like home for you. Our goal is to create home for you here. And then lastly, we do help with clear outs and that final dispersal. So you can see that it really is a full range. And we can just break it down into however and whatever you would like us to do. We'll do as much or as little as you'd like. And for those of you joining us today from out of state, just know that we do have resources. And again, Kim alluded to the National Association that we belong to. And we do have colleagues in and around the entire United States. And Wayforth ourselves are here in the New England area, all the way down through the DC and North Carolina area. So we do have, under our own umbrella, we do have a great reach.
Ellen, I just wanted to interject here and let people know that when I first started this business, it came out of a personal experience that I had with my own parents, who were moving from a home that they had lived in for 60 years. And it's all of the services that Ellen just mentioned that needed to sort of be utilized in my parents' move. And through that experience is how this company was born. And I think that we hear time and time again that whether you utilize the full service or whether you utilize bits and pieces of the service, we hear people say, you know, I couldn't have done it without you, or, you know, I'm so glad that this service exists. And I think that, you know, to learn today about the full sort of move and what's expected, and know that there is help. You just wanted to, you know, to let you know that all those services are available to you.
Absolutely. So important for you to recognize too with downsizing that really this particular frame here is, I think, the cornerstone of downsizing or right sizing. And that is sorting like items into together. You want to see that whole collection. So even using this, and we'll get into a little bit later, but just seeing this particular picture here with all of the mugs here. What we want you to do is just make sure that you're seeing that, getting all of your mugs together in the kitchen, whether they're in one cabinet or many, and get them out of the cabinet onto a counter, having that workspace so that you can see everything in the light of day. You'll even notice in this picture that there are mugs that are behind the front ones stacked. So there's probably so many different mugs that this particular person is not even using on a day-to-day. And so with downsizing or right sizing, we're really asking you to think about your new lifestyle and look at your items with a new lens and just say, you know, you're right, I'm not using all of those mugs out back, but let me take a look at them, and I'll plan to take 6 or 12 of them, you know, to my move. But you can probably weed through some of those. But keep in mind sorting like items and seeing that whole collection. So in terms of, you know, how you're going to sort and organize and get them into those categories, we usually break them out into keep, what you'd like to move with you. And that's usually marked by a green dot. You'll see some dots there. We love to use dots. Green meaning that it's going with you on your move. And if you are interested in selling or donating an item, we typically use a blue dot, either on a pile of items or on one particular large item. If you're giving items to family or friends, we use a yellow dot. And if you've got multiple people in your family that are taking items, we usually put their initials on the dot. And then of course, red would be for something that was disposal. But if the other 3 dot colors are available, we'll know that if there's no particular delineation, that we can discuss it and it might go to disposal. But so you see that we have the keep, sell, donate, and dispose. And we would suggest too that as you start to downsize and make some decisions, maybe start with some of the less emotional areas. Photos and the like are very difficult to dive into because it's easy to get derailed. So think about just starting with some of the low hanging fruit, keeping some dots with you and just making some decisions. Focusing, I would suggest, on the green dots. Focus on what you want to take with you and the rest will fall into place.
We have found that a lot of our clients find this this system useful in a basement, for example, where it can be sometimes overwhelming that there's so many things in the basement you haven't looked at for a while, but going down there with the dots and just putting dots on things really gives you a sense of accomplishment and gets you going and gets you started. So hopefully this will be a tip that's helpful for you.
That's right. So some of the things you can ask yourself as you're going through, whether it's a mug or an article of clothing or a piece of art, does this item bring you joy? Is it something that you are, and coupled with, is it something you're using regularly? And I think that's a key item here. If it's something that you're hanging on to for some particular reason, just give it some thought and think about the use that you have, the daily use. Or conversely, has it served its purpose now that you're looking at it? Is it something that has been sitting in your curio or sitting in a cabinet and it really, you used it maybe 10 years ago or 5 years ago, but it's just not being used now. So consider that you can say thank you to it, it served its purpose, and you're moving along. Many people say to us, "Oh gosh, but I got it as a gift," and they're feeling guilty about giving something away. Well, just think in terms of that person that gave it to you would not want you burdened by this piece, and maybe the joy was in just receiving it or the times that you did use it. But just understand that now you're at that point where you just want to make that decision in terms of your next steps, not keeping somebody else happy. There's a really important category that we want you all to think about and consider is the I haven't a clue category. And it's okay to have a few things in this particular category, because you may hit something that you just are perplexed about and you're just not sure whether you want to take it, donate it, give it to family or not. Just set it aside, make sure you get back to it, and certainly make sure that this category isn't getting too unwieldy or too many items in it. But it's okay. There are going to be things that are going to just stump you, but the important thing is not to get derailed. You set out to do a project for that particular day, and you want to just continue on without getting waylaid. So let's talk about some steps in downsizing. Start small. Don't think in terms of, I'm going to get this entire kitchen done, or I'm going to get this entire garage done. It could be a drawer. It could be, a wall of a couple of cabinets. But just be fair to yourself. It's taken, we're all a nation of consumers. It's taken you a while to accumulate things, and it's going to take some time to go through things. But let's just make sure that you're starting small. We talked about, finding things that bring you joy. it's so important as you're going through your items to identify those favorite things. And again, you know, whether you're coffee, tea, or whatever drinker, you know, I always go back to the heart and soul of a home is your kitchen. So make sure that you're bringing these favorite things, whether it's from the kitchen or your den. You want those creature comforts to bring over with you. And please take some extra time in the kitchen. Looking into this is a very typical view of what we see in our clients' kitchens. And you can see that there's probably 8 or 10 muffin tins there. So as you're looking through with your different lens now, take a moment and just ask yourself, do I need all those muffin tins, or am I okay with just having one? You have to remember too that you now, as residents of Birch Hill, have access to a wonderful dining room and pub and all the like. So it's your turn to be treated. And you may have been used to cooking for the masses, but it's your time now. And so maybe you'll just be making muffins for yourself, or a smaller amount to bring to family and friends. We talked about starting small. You could just go through your spices one day. And you can see by these particular spices here that they probably are more collector's items than active spices in this particular kitchen. A little sidebar in terms of, now these are Durkee spices, but McCormick spices. If you have the glass containers of McCormick spices and it has a Baltimore, Maryland address on it on the label, that's at least 15 years old. So that's a good indication that that you may want to toss that, because spices lose their potency and their steam and in your cooking. So you want to be aware of that. And then again, another tip with McCormick spices, except for the pepper, the rectangular tins are also at least 15 years old. And again, except for the pepper. And then the other photo you see, all the the bulk buying that many people do, and the reserves that we from time to time all keep for those emergencies, or you just want to make sure you have backup. Start eating those reserves, thin those out, and try to avoid that bulk buying for now. And then you'll see that you have ample space in your new place, and maybe you can think about not necessarily having to do that bulk buying anymore. But as you're thinking about packing, the less you have to pack, the less expensive, and less we're looking for space to put these things. Look at your collections. Now, a collection can be anything. It could be your, this particular owl collection. It could be your books. It could be anything, cars, model cars, stamps, anything that you might have. This particular client that we had owl figurines all around their home. And I did ask her one day, I just said, how was it that you came to begin collecting owls? And she said, well, I happened to mention that I liked owls to someone, and then it spread like wildfire, and I proceeded to get owls for every birthday, Christmas, and possible event. So they were indeed all over her home, but she loved this display shelf. So we thought, let's clear it all off, and now I'd like you to go through the house and think about your favorite ones, and let's place them on the shelf as it would show at your new place. And so this was a picture of how she designed it, and it made her happy. She knew that it represented her whole collection, but she knew that she wasn't burdening herself, her new space, of all the other ones. And so she was able to gift some of the others, and then others were donated in this particular instance. But Kate, I know you have a nice story about books and how people families can look at whether it's gifting or going through?
So one of the big challenges I had when I was helping my parents downsize was was their book collection, and it was a massive book collection, and my father needed to catalog all of his books. And so one of the things that we always tell people is that there is joy in downsizing, because through that process, which started out as an overwhelming process for him, actually became very enjoyable as he started looking at his books and, you know, remembering where he bought them or who gave it to him. And it became a project that he really enjoyed doing every day. But one of the things that he did with his books was he has 13 grandchildren. So he gifted some of his books to his grandchildren, and you know, wrote inscriptions in them, you know, books that he liked as a child, and so on and so forth. So, you know, and he has passed now, and my son cherishes the book that his grandfather gave him. So there's lots of creative ways that you can downsize and gift things that you may not initially think are meaningful, but truly are meaningful to the receiver.
Absolutely. And that would go too for, you know, I think we'll get to this soon, but your artwork. The clothing closets. So we're all the same. You know, we have clothing in our bedroom closets. We've got clothing in extra bedroom closets. We've got clothing in third bedroom closets, if that's the case. We have clothing in entry closets. So it is everywhere. So if you are, again, looking, let me use an example of a client that he had fleece pullovers, you know, fleece jackets. And so he just, I asked him to pull them all together from all around the house. I think he had about 14 of them. So we spread them out on the bed, and all of a sudden now he's looking at them, and he looked at me, he said, wow, that's way too many. But he hadn't realized that. So then we kind of categorized them by, some of them were just pullovers. And I asked him, I just said, are you wearing those at all? I know I don't particularly love, you know, doing pullovers myself. I like a zip or a button or something like that. So he said, no, I really am not wearing those. Let's just get those out of the way. And then he looked at the quarter zips. You know, he had just like a quarter zip that he had, I think, 6 of them. And so he said, I'm just wearing these 2. And then I kind of like this one. I'm going to see if I can, you know, I'll wear that one. And he got rid of ferreted out those. And then we got to the full zips. And he could see that a couple of them were kind of pilly and stained. And so he got rid of all of those. And I think we got it down to 5 from the 14. And I have to say that just going through that exercise with him, the look on his face, he was so proud of himself. He just felt like he had accomplished something, and he felt that he wasn't just, you know, taking things along with him. And that's another good tip as well. Guard against the temptation of saying, I'll just downsize it when I get there. Because if we bring way too much, it's hard to determine what those priority items are that should be unpacked. So we've been in situations where people didn't downsize their kitchens or their closets, and now all of a sudden we've got 3, 4, 5 boxes we haven't unpacked yet. And yet we have, you know, if we're going to complete the pack, you know, we want to try to get things in, but we don't want to jam things in. If clothing is too tight in a closet, it's not efficient, it's frustrating. You can see this particular person, you know, just kind of stuck in their closet. Look at your shoes. I've had the instance once when I looked at my closet and I found dust on my shoes. Now that was a good indication that I hadn't been using them. So there's little hints that will give you, you know, or if they're just starting to dry out even, you know, shoes are usually pretty flexible, but just take a look at your shoes, at the ties. You know, this is a very casual society right now, guys. So if you need to just keep 2 or 3 of them, that's great. But think about whether you need to keep all 30 or 50 of them. So you kind of get what I'm looking at here. In terms of your clothing, your dressers and your drawers, you can keep all the soft goods in those dressers and bureaus. We can, assuming that the furniture piece itself isn't too heavy alone, just keep everything nice and neat in those, and we'll move it with your clothing in it. So paperwork and photographs and wall art. You know, some of us, whether it's mail that, you know, that we get in, we get so much junk mail, you know, so many, you know, bank statements if you're not, you know, getting it online. So paperwork does tend to add up. So think in terms of receiving your mail and just getting it right to you know, a counter over, you know, recycling bag or however you manage your paperwork, and just get rid of some of those things that are just going to clutter that space. You know, react to it right as it comes in and when you're looking at it. Photos, you know, when you think about having family over or holidays, you can start organizing those photographs and giving and gifting to your family and friends. But as you're going through photos, you know, you might ask yourself, you know, is it a duplicate that you can just get rid of? Do you even know the people in the photograph? You know, is it a good picture of you, or are you, you know, not liking it? You know, so is it out of focus? So there are certain things that you can do in terms of, you know, getting through and culling out some of those that you don't need. You know, the other thing is that there are electronic frames out there, right, that are very, very nice to have. You can upload, there's a frame called Skylight, SKYLIGHT. We recently bought one of these for my parents. And you can actually, if you there's a membership you join for however long you'd like it. I think it's a year at a time. And you can actually email pictures from anywhere right to the frame. And my parents have really gotten a kick out of it. So if we've had an event together or not in this, you know, kind of COVID environment, they're getting a big kick out of receiving some pictures. So those e-frames are great. And then back to your paperwork, you know, think about the shredding and that, you know, that cornerstone of downsizing, of sorting like items. So if you've got some paperwork and you find that you've got 2, 3, 4, 5 bags full of it, you know, think about, you know, just getting it to a, you know, a Staples for shredding, or a free event in your town. We talk about working smart versus working hard. And working hard, if you have a lot of shredding, try not to just be sitting in front of your own home shredder for hours, you know, trying to get that done. Keep it, you know, and see how large that shredding pile gets, and whether you have a mobile shredder come to your home, go to Staples or the like, you know, again, that would be working smart to get that all together. And then be thinking about what wall art you want to bring with you. You'll have some nice space in your new environment to bring those favorite pieces. And again, you may have some that you're just not sure about. Tag them, and then we can figure out space a little bit later. When I say that later, you know, during the floor planning process. We talked about this too early on in the session about kitchen and getting the mugs out onto your surface or your table. The same thing if you've got a bed, a guest room, a foldable table. But you want to create a place where you can spread out and sort things, kind of a command central, if you will. But this was a client who, this was quite a while ago, and I know that the secondary market for selling items has changed. But in this example, she brought out all her linens that she did not, table linens, that she did not want to use. And we had our dealer come in, looking at them right on the bed, and he purchased some of those. So this does help, you know, in terms of really seeing things. And we found that a number of these were either soiled or whatnot. So we were able to set them aside, and actually we ended up throwing them out. We, in terms of setting and managing expectations, we we don't want to be the bearer of bad news here, and many of you have probably heard this, but that many times the kids and family and friends, generally speaking, they do not want your possessions. We've come from previous generations where we've passed down all of our possessions to those, and new generations have gladly taken them. Well, we've kind of come to a screeching halt now. There are 2 generations downsizing right now, and many of our family and friends have got all they need and want in their own homes. So just know that that is something that we can help you with. We have, for example, a online auction company that we work with called Max Sold out of Canada. But we run auctions quarterly out of our Charlestown, Mass warehouse. So if there are select items that you would like to consider for our auction, we can discuss that and see if things would be a good fit for that. And then conversely, if you're out of your home and want to do a Max Sold, you've already moved and you want to do a Max Sold auction in the home, we can talk to you about that as well. It doesn't necessarily offer you a big payday, but it offers you a solution to getting some monies, even if it's a wash, and not having to do a full clear out, paying for dumpsters and whatnot. But again, we will have a good idea of how to advise you there. Hummels and brown furniture. The term brown furniture really just means the furniture that everybody has. It's just a kind of an overarching term for all that furniture that we all have in our home. The coffee table or the side tables and whatnot. And so in many cases, those items that you aren't taking probably won't be able to be sold. But as it says in the last banner here, but the good news is that donation there are so many families in need these days, that donation is a wonderful and purposeful way of moving your items along for those in need. And we work with some great charities, Habitat for Humanity. There's some Families in Transition in Manchester. If you have a favorite charity, we can certainly, our goal is to see if they'll do a complimentary pickup. But again, given the current environment, we sometimes need to just load them on our trucks and get them to the charity themselves. But we can help you talk through that and help you understand what your options are. So this is an example of a move we did some years ago. And it illustrates the process that we bring to your move. So we like our trucks packed a certain way. So you can see that they had 2 Oriental rugs. So we wanted to make sure that those rugs were accessible. They came off the truck first so that we could lay down those lovely rugs, and then the remainder of the furniture and boxes come in. Our movers are bringing in furniture and boxes simultaneously. And so you can see that the break front out back, we've already started to unpack that. You can see that we're using the table to make sure that we're corresponding those particular items to the photos we took. And so that would be done just as it was in their existing home. But this is kind of the way any move is going to look. Things might look a little in disarray and whatnot, but it's all organized in our minds, and it's part of the process. Many people say to us, when I come out and do an initial visit, when they're looking to have me come out and visit them for a complimentary visit, they'll say to me, oh gosh, the house is just looking messy. It's not the way we live. And what I say to them is that we want to see how you live, but we also see that people are starting to sort and organize before I visit with them. And to me, that's progress. So please, as no need to clean up and whatnot for our visit. I want to see how you live and that you are in process with some of your downsizing if you choose. So the next slide is going to show us the finished result. We did this in one day. If you would like your art hung, we'll hang it that same day, or if you'd like us to just unpack it and get it into a safe place so that you can kind of live in your space and make some decisions about where you'd like that art hung, we can do that as well. But this was all about creating home and just making sure that the photo on the side table was where it needed to be. And as you can see, the break front is done as well.
So I just want to mention that these two photos really illustrate one of the funnest parts of our service, and that is sort of the unpack and resettling. And this is a process that, you know, if clients don't do anything else or have us do anything else, they have us do this part, because by the time it gets on the truck, that's just you're just halfway done, because it needs to come off the truck, the boxes need to be unpacked, and things need to be put in its proper place. So if you're doing that floor planning that we mentioned ahead of time, this allows us to be able to put things where you want them. And these clients, they were gone the entire day. They didn't actually even come back when we were finished. They came back later. But we knew exactly what they wanted. And when they came back to their home that evening, they were overjoyed. I mean, they both got on the phone and left me a message that was like, I wanted to keep it forever because they were just so happy. But this is what we're about, is wanting to make your move as stress-free as possible. And this is one of the funnest moments that we share with our clients, is when they come into their new home and see it all set up.
That's right. And so for some of you, you may say to us, I've already packed some of these boxes. I'd like you to pack the kitchen and these other 2 or 3 rooms. So again, just keep in mind, we'll do as much or as little as you'd like. The kitchen is always a great place to have unpacked. It's labor intensive, and the boxes that everything is packed in, they're large and very heavy. So we can do some pre-planning with you to understand approximately where you'd like to have things placed in your kitchen cabinets. And then you just need to go back and do any refinement that you'd like, but at least you're not dealing with the heavy boxes, the paper and the tape. But however you envision your move is how we will work with you. We really want to meet you where you're at and what your thoughts are. We will certainly give you our advice and our opinion, but it is ultimately your decision how you want to run your move. So let's talk about some of the items that we have gone through. We'll summarize. So we talked about that it's never too early to start. And by starting early, you're going to have time to break it down into small, manageable pieces. You know, again, don't think that you've got to take on the whole kitchen at one time or the whole garage. Make it so that it's manageable and that you're setting yourself up for success. The cornerstone, see that whole collection. Very important. And ask yourself, are you does it bring you joy, and are you using it regularly? Very big question. So you are building a good team. So whether you're working with, Jen or Leanne or the like or Kim at Birch Hill, your realtor is important. And certainly we're here for you here, and we want to be part of a good team for you. And even as Kate said, have some fun. There can be some joy, definitely some joy in the process. There's a couple of other tips that I just wanted to mention that I didn't go into. And many of our clients have to dry out paint in their basement, because basement is an area that you can certainly, basement, attic, and garage, you can get going anytime in those rooms less traveled. But if you go to Home Depot or Lowe's, in the paint department, I want to say it's called, and it might be called something different in the different stores, but it's called Crud Cutter, and they're both starting with a K. But they're just a packet that you pour into. I would say it's most effective in in half of a gallon. And it really helps dry out the paint very quickly. This would be the latex that in many cases that it can be just put in the trash once it's fully dry. So be thinking about that. And then utilize your weekly trash pickups to start getting some manageable sized items out there. I think you'll find that that'll be helpful just to over time get things done.
There's a couple of things that I wanted to mention too, Ellen. And that is there are two keys to the successful downsizing. And the first one is because downsizing is very emotional, and it's, like Ellen said, you need to take it in small manageable chunks because it does become emotional, and then you get sort of decision fatigue. So you really do need to break it up. But the first tip or the first key to successful downsizing is being able to tell someone a story about an item that you're getting rid of. It's very hard to get rid of an item without someone else realizing its value to you. So we always encourage when you're downsizing to do it with somebody else, so that you can tell those stories. And number two, the second key is to make sure that when you're giving it up, that you're giving it or it's going someplace that makes you feel good. So if you feel good about gifting it to your, grandchildren, or you feel good about donating it to a particular charity, that is going to make letting go of that item easier. So those are two just important things to remember when you're downsizing.
Great, thank you, Kate. So it's so true. The best stuff in life isn't stuff at all. So if good decisions are made on the front end, utilizing the floor plan and the space that you now know you have, it's really going to free you up. Not only from, the downsizing and moving perspective, but also moving to, to Birch Hill. You're not burdened by having to do the lawn and the upkeep of the house. So you're really looking towards, freeing yourself up to do what you want to do in your life. So we just wanted to say thank you to Kim, and I think, was Nancy going to say something, and then we'd go to Q&A?
Absolutely. I'll invite Nancy McGann to join us via video and audio again, and she's just going to share a little bit of her experience with downsizing and moving into Birch Hill. And then we'll take Q&A at the end. So start thinking about your questions or start typing them in Q&A, and we'll cover those at the end.
Great.
Ready for me?
Yeah, take it away.
Okay. Good morning. I think it's morning where everybody lives today. I'm Nancy McGann, and I've lived at Birch Hill for about 3 years. I was born in Chicago, lived in several suburbs, and graduated from Monmouth College in Illinois with an art major. I ultimately ended up in Connecticut and retired from Sikorsky Aircraft, the home of the Black Hawk helicopter. There I was a technical illustrator and proposal production manager. After retirement, I downsized to Windham, New Hampshire, which is down the road about 30 minutes from here. There I became a docent at the Currier Art Museum, which for those of you who don't live here, is a very fine art. Oh, there I am in the car, my Thelma and Louise picture. Anyway, I'm back to the Currier. The Currier Art Museum is a fine, very good art museum in Connecticut, the only actually big art museum in Connecticut. So in Manchester, if you're thinking about moving here, you're going to have the advantage of that beautiful museum. And that's where for the last 10 years I've given tours of the two, well, actually now they have two, but at the time, the Frank Lloyd Wright designed Zimmerman House. The museum just acquired a second Frank Lloyd Wright house. So when this COVID business is over, we'll be giving tours of both of those houses. But actually we're here today to discuss those three dreaded words: downsizing for a move. I did it largely by myself and can only describe it as horrible, stressful, and emotionally and physically exhausting. And I hope to never have to do it again. But I said that the last 8 times I moved, and here I am, I hope, for the last move. Today, I feel totally liberated. I don't miss any of the things that I left behind, and I'm very smug talking to friends of mine who are dealing with the downsizing problems themselves. As hard as it was to get rid of 50% of my stuff, I haven't missed anything. And after 3 years living here, I can brag about having an empty drawer in the kitchen and an empty drawer in the bathroom. So I must have done a good job of downsizing. As Kate said earlier, staying focused and organized is the key. Initially, I was scattered. I was running from one thing to another and making absolutely no progress. Finish one thing before moving on. Finish that cabinet, finish that cupboard or that drawer. Make lists and more lists. Get a notebook with dividers and make categories such as address changes, utilities that you have to stop service, and phone numbers of places and agencies that will take your things. You will spend hours on the telephone looking for these agencies. Be sure to find out if they pick up. Many will only take specific items. Silver can be sold, but silver plate is worthless. Mattresses have to go to the dump, and many places are not interested in upholstered items. If you don't have a truck or the strength to lift your items into a truck, check your classifieds to find somebody who will help you do it. Places I used were Ellen and Kate, of course, Got Junk, who will take anything you give them for a fee. The animal shelter would love to take bedding, towels, and cleaning items. Teen Challenge, which is local to Manchester, will pick up upholstered furniture, but only after they inspect it. Habitat Restore will pick up, but they don't want any upholstered furniture. My library liked the books I gave them, the CDs and the DVDs, and as Kate mentioned, for a pound fee, Staples does bulk shredding. It made it easier knowing that I was moving here to Birch Hill, and I knew how many square feet I would be dealing with. I went through each room and chose the big items that I could take. Obviously, bed, dresser, couch, chairs, TVs. If you're coming to Birch Hill, you will have all new appliances, so they aren't an issue. I did it in layers. I went through each room every day and got rid of the obvious things, and then I kept repeating it until I was down to the bare essentials. Eliminate your big items. You will feel very cramped in a Birch Hill apartment if you bring gigantic furniture here. If you are single, do you really need a king-size bed? I bought a smaller couch and an occasional chair, and then I went to an antique store and found a drop leaf table that I refinished. And when it's not in use, it's 12 feet long and 3 feet wide, taking up no space unless I need it. Keep anything with drawers or storage in it. Making the decisions of what to get rid of is probably the hardest thing. And the hardest part was letting go of things with sentimental value rather than monetary value. Believe it or not, though, after several weeks, it begins to get easier, or else you just get tired of it and you want to just throw everything out. But I got to the place when I stopped thinking about every little thing and began to toss out with vengeance. For example, 20 years ago, when I moved from Connecticut to New Hampshire, I packed up my high school and college yearbooks and wedding albums and 10 albums of photos and journals from my travels. I stored them in the basement and never opened them during those 20 years. I knew if I did open them, I would be mired down for days going through those memories. So I put my blinders on and threw them away, still in the tape cartons. I took all the photos out of the family albums and filed them by year in boxes that I bought at Michael's, specifically for photos. Now the boxes take half of one bookshelf where the albums took 3. And like Kate mentioned, I love it. I love this business about closet purging. There is never a time that that doesn't need to be done, whether you're moving or not. But when you get to your new and smaller space, there will be storage issues. I solved my clothes closet issue by buying heavy-duty Wonder hangers. You can get them online or you can get them at Bed Bath & Beyond. Then I bought all thin hangers. Now I can hang on one Wonder hanger 10 pair of pants in the space of one hanger, giving me extra room, so now I have no excuse for not going out and buying more clothes. But most importantly, don't let your feelings get hurt when your children aren't interested in your precious things. For some reason, it's so much easier to give your things to your children and your family than it is to give them to Goodwill or consignment. It's a mental thing. But their tastes are different and they don't have the space. And don't even try your friends because they're doing the same thing as you are. Recently, I read an article in Yankee magazine that said, brown furniture gives the younger generation the willies just looking at it. If the furniture is brown, it is not wanted. Yankee quoted some amusing headlines from a number of periodicals. The Denver Post said, memo to parents, the kids don't want your furniture. From the Wall Street Journal came, that perfect dining table, nobody wants it even if it's free. And the Financial Times wrote an article entitled, The Recline and Fall of Antique Furniture. Brown furniture, it's solemnly announced, is dead. Now, what is brown furniture? Probably anything that did not come from IKEA. Comedians make jokes about downsizing. Remember George Carlin and his jokes about stuff? Experts write books about it, and there are businesses devoted to doing it for you, like the one you heard from today. Take advantages of all of those resources. I saw a piece on CBS's Sunday morning show about cleaning out. The expert Andrew Mellon, who lives in a 633 square foot Manhattan apartment, ended it by saying, set yourself free, it's only stuff. So good luck. Remember, this too, along with the COVID virus, will pass. Stay well and set yourself free. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. That was some wonderful insight. I loved all the research that you shared also. And to Ellen and Kate, thank you so much. That was really a wealth of information. And, if I was in this position, I would feel a lot less anxiety with moving forward with this process. And I just wanted to share one other slide before we start with questions. And that is our next online workshop that we're going to host. It's called The Keys to Living a Happy Life. And it's presented by Dr. Robert Waldinger, who directs the Harvard Study of Adult Development. And this is a longitudinal study it's the longest ever done. And he's going to share his insight about what this study has revealed are the keys to living a long and happy life. So this is Wednesday, September 9th at 1 p.m. We've never had him speak at a workshop for us before, so this is very exciting. And you can easily register right on our website, birchhillrc.org. So with that, we'll go ahead and start with some questions. And the first one is actually really related to the CCRC model. And they ask if your spouse is, and what if your spouse is under 62? So the way that the contract works is that both people in the couple must be 62 or really close to 62 in order to be eligible or to move in. But I think, if it's within a certain small amount of time, it's certainly negotiable. The The next question is specific to Wayforth, Ellen, and it asks about the fee structure and what that looks like.
Sure. So we charge hourly. I usually, as we indicated, come out and do a complimentary first visit. And from there, I will do a proposal for you so that you will know, kind of breaking it out by, floor planning, packing, downsizing, moving. So you'll have a really good idea of really almost like a menu of items that you can choose from and do as much or as little as you want there.
Okay, great. And what would you say is the average amount of time for most people for this process?
I think if, in terms of, we can meet any time is the short answer. But typically, once they know they're moving and have, signed on with Birch Hill, then that process can begin. Now we can meet that deadline because we can move as quickly or as slowly as you need. So just know that we're prepared to help you with any timetable. Having said that, Nancy said it so well, whether it's a closet or a basement or whatever that, we can be working on that anytime. So it's never too early to start. So you can be thinking about that.
Excellent. We also had another comment from an attendee who said kitty litter also works well to dry up paint.
It does. Before I knew about this, when I sold a house before I had joined Wayforth, I did the kitty litter. It just took a little longer.
Okay.
Yep. Thank you.
So it's worth the time. Yep. And then the next question is specific to CCRCs and the contract type. So most, Birch Hill is the only type B currently in the state of New Hampshire. Most other CCRCs are a type A contract. And I will actually follow up with you and share a recording of a presentation of an online workshop that we just completed at the end of July called the Insider's Guide, which is an informational workshop that talks about how to choose a CCRC. It talks about the differences in contracts, and it talks about the differences in services and amenities, but that's a great question. Are there any other questions? Let's see, like we're at last call here. I haven't received any other new questions. So we'll just give a moment here. It is 12:05 too, and I want to be respectful of everyone's time. But you can reach out to Birch Hill, or you have Ellen and Kate's contact information as well. And a copy of this presentation will also be sent in a few days. And I don't see any other questions, so I guess we'll end the recording and wrap it up. So thank you, Ellen and Nancy and Kate, for your time today, and thank you everyone for joining us.
Thank you, Kim.